What have you done? Jace. Jace. What have you done?
Welcome back to the official Game of Thrones podcast, House of the Dragon. I'm Greta Johnsen.
And I'm Jason Concepcion. Today, dragons are knocking on King's Landing's door.
It is all happening, Jason. I can't believe it. We're going to get into it. We are discussing episode 2 of season 3, which was written by Sara Hess and directed by Clare Kilner.
And today we'll be joined by both Sara and Clare to discuss this episode. Sara Hess is House of the Dragon's co-head writer and executive producer, and Clare Kilner is the director of this episode and also an executive producer. We're going to talk to them about those climactic 20 minutes and this major turning point in the war for the Iron Throne.
And after that, we are also going to talk about the aftermath of War in the Gullet with Bethany Antonia, who plays Baela Targaryen, and Abubakar Salim, who plays Alyn of Hull. And if you missed it, last week we had a special bonus episode of the podcast. It was sponsored by Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business, and it featured director Lonnie Peristeer and a panel discussion with the show's cast and crew that was at ATX TV Festival in Austin.
All right, time to get into it. Let's go take King's Landing.
If your father could see what it's come to, he would never have imagined it.
Speak no more.
So our severed head count is 2 now.
2 severed heads.
2 for 2 in this season, really.
3 if we count last episode, so it's 3 total for the season thus far, 2 for this episode.
Okay,
yes.
okay. Good. Thank you for keeping track of that. Okay, so first, I feel like we have to discuss what to me is one of the biggest themes of this episode, which is the aftermath of the Battle of the Gullet and the fact that victory at what cost, I think, is what I keep thinking about with this episode, you know?
I mean, Corlys, I think, says it best. If this is victory, I hope I don't see another one. It's a Pyrrhic victory, or so it appears at this moment, the kind of victory where the victor is left so weakened that you wonder, can they continue? The loss of Jace is devastating, not just emotionally, but politically. And I don't know, what do you think? Was it worth it?
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe we should even start by saying, do you think it is a victory? Corlys calls it a victory. Baela calls it a victory.
Yeah, it's a victory. They have King's Landing.
Yeah.
The Triarchy fleet is destroyed.
Yeah.
Although at the cost of most of Corlys's fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And Daemon has been on a winning streak in the Riverlands. So, yeah, clear victory. But again, they're severely weakened.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just the death of Jace is just so terrible. There's that moment in the beginning of the episode when Rhaenyra sees Jace's body and faces her small council. Let's take a listen.
My queen, I have failed you. My life must be forfeit.
And what good would that do? Will it wake my son? Will it change the truth of his folly and yours? And yours! All of you who knew what Jacaerys had done and stood by. Are your lives too not forfeit? Have you not betrayed your queen?
It's a very tough moment, and she's not wrong. I mean, if people had their instructions, they knew what they were supposed to be doing, and Jace, we talked about this last episode, headstrong kid, was not necessarily listened to with, I think, some very reasonable critiques of the overall strategy. And so one would understand that maybe he would seek to do something like this. And if the rest of her small council and Queen's Guard and the people around her had just been more scared of her.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I'm wondering, do you think she should take Sir Marbrand's head here?
Ooh, God, that's such a good question. I don't know. I think she's in too much grief to be able to make a good decision, which sucks.
I agree with you. Because I think the problem is that even the people who support her don't seem to think that she's got the juice to lead.
Right.
Because if they did, they would never have let Jace do this.
Right. They wouldn't have locked her up.
They would not have locked her up, and they would have thrown their bodies in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they didn't, I think she's quite right to be mad at everybody.
For sure. Well, I think we also have to just shout out Emma Darcy's performance in this scene.
Incredible.
It's phenomenal. We're going to talk much more about the scene and kind of where Rhaenyra is at later in this episode in our interview with Sarah Hess and Clare Kilner. Okay, so someone else who I imagine you have pretty strong words for is Rhaena in the Vale. Speaking of the aftermath of the battle.
Yeah.
Man, I do have so much compassion for her, but it's also just like, girl, what are you doing?
I mean, not to mention that she's putting Lady Jane Eyre in a very, very tough position because Lady Jane brings the news that Jace is dead. And I think she's quite right to believe that Rhaenyra is going to really want to kill whoever she feels is responsible.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I think she's just like whoever's raiding sheep stealers going down. Right.
And so I think Rhaenyra's very lucky that Lady Jane is like, yeah, you can stay here, but of course, like, we can never interact again. I guess the relationship is like, I don't know you're here.
Right.
I don't know you.
Don't ask,
don't ask, don't tell. Like, it's not my problem.
Yeah, let's play a moment from that scene.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be on a ship to Pentos.
Well, I need asylum, my lady. I had nowhere else to go.
How dare you? Asylum. You run from my charge and you bring disaster to my doorstep. The Queen will be hunting you.
None saw that it was me.
I would say you had lost all sense, but that I doubt you had any in the first place. Don't come back here.
Do you want a dragon or not? You said yourself you were deceived in your dealings with the Queen. Taken for a fool. You wanted protection. I offer it now.
What do you make of this deal?
I don't think Rhaenyra's qualified to make that deal. Like, she can't control that dragon.
I think you're right. I agree with you. Jane doesn't know that.
That's a very good point.
But I completely agree with you. And I think that, the idea that it's true that Rhaenyra and the realm writ large doesn't know that it was her.
I mean, partly it's also wild to think about, like, just the level of desperation that Rhaena would have to be at to want to go back to the Vale. Because she just has nowhere else to go.
She has nowhere else to go. She should come clean, because I think there's a world in which she could say, hey, you got another dragon.
Right.
It is kind of a wash because you did lose one.
And also your son.
But here's the good news. We have another dragon. She probably should try to do that, but she'd just prefer this, which is to live in seclusion. And for Lady Jane, I guess, to the extent that she would have the protection of a dragon, I guess you could see a world in which people would say, well, there's a wild dragon there. Don't, it's not controlled by anybody, but you have to be aware of it. And so I could see the upside for Lady Jane, but it's tremendously dangerous for her.
Well, it is dangerous, but it's also not costing her that much, right? I mean, she doesn't have to actively help take care of Rhaena. She's like, essentially, I don't want to see you, and do your thing. I mean, she also has plausible deniability if she needs it too.
Right. What dragon? Who?
Oh, I don't.
What?
No, I don't know anything about that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Two other characters dealing with fallout from the gullet without fully realizing it are Larys and Aegon. Of course, they weren't there. But it does seem as if the chaos of war is, in a strange way, working in their favor.
No kidding. Yeah, this is a storyline I have no idea where it's going to go. I'm very excited about that.
Again, it's a wonderful road movie. I love the moment where Larys is like, what's going on? Opens the door and is like, okay, not what I predicted would be happening, which is the Triarchy apparently inland and fighting. He goes, I am surprised. This is a wonderful moment.
I was mistaken. I am surprised. That peacock, Tywin Lannister, has actually convinced the Triarchy to come into it against Rhaenyra. It doesn't seem to have gone very well.
I was really struck by Aegon stabbing the guard. You really get a feeling of the rage that he has that is pent up in him.
Yeah, I mean, you really get that sense, too, of just how completely out of control he is of all of it. And
do you think he trusts Larys? Or what does he think of this relationship?
I don't think he has a choice but to trust Larys at this point. But I do think he still would cut and run with any opportunity. You know, I don't think he feels like he owes Larys anything either.
I think you're right. I think he must understand deep down that he needs Larys. But I think the second he feels that he doesn't necessarily need Larys is the moment that Larys is in trouble.
This show continues to excel at scale. I gotta say, one of the most incredible sequences in this episode is Aemond taking Harrenhal. I mean, just the sheer scale of Vhagar coming in is it's wild.
I mean, you don't stand a chance against Aemond on Vhagar. I think the only chance you have, if I could coach up the Harrenhal defenders and other defenders for a moment.
It's a little late.
Wait for him to come. He throws the chain ladder down, and it takes him like a minute to get down the thing because Vhagar is like 3 stories. Shoot him in the back with the arrows when he's climbing down. Don't pop out afterwards. It's too late now.
It is too late.
Get him when he's climbing down. But it gives you an idea of, this dragon is vast. It is so big.
Yeah, she's massive.
I mean, Aemond and Vhagar take down a host of people one-on-one. I mean, it was scary, the ease with which they took the castle.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well, I mean, it's like, especially after Daemon put all that work in and then everybody just pieced out. It's like, well, what do you think was going to happen?
Simon, the Castellan of Harrenhal. His son tried to be like, no, don't go over there to talk to him. Which was my reaction as well. Why are you getting so close to him? You can talk to him from across the table. But it was interesting to see how malleable he's been in the face of multiple incursions into Harrenhal.
Yeah, pretty chill.
He's like, oh, you got the castle now? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
I mean, it is a pretty interesting strategy. Because it's like he's got nothing to fight with. So it is, you just sort of have to, like, he's bending the knee, you know?
Yeah. It was a sad end for him.
So while Aemond takes Harrenhal, Daemon travels from the Riverlands back to Dragonstone. He's heard the news. He knows it's bad.
And of course, Daemon gets pulled away from his big post-victory party.
Yep.
Here's the thing that I found very interesting. Didn't it feel as if they were improvising? Like it was a freestyle session. Did somebody like sit and write the verses out and it was okay, hand these out, now we're going to sing them? It felt like we're going in the round. If you have a verse, pop out and drop your verse, Oscar. Now you, Lord Dustin. Now you, Daemon.
Yeah.
The callback is fish feed, fish feed, fish feed.
Yeah.
And then we go on to the next verse. I didn't know they did it like that in Westeros.
They're having fun.
It seemed like a great time.
It did seem like a great time. One thing that I found really surprising and interesting about this episode is the number of times Daemon kind of gives Rhaenyra pep talks.
Yeah, like you can do it. Kill
him.
You got it.
Yes, we got to go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, like over and over, I feel like he really is there. He has to kind of urge her along at every step of the way.
Yeah, we got to do it. He brings up the prophecy, to your point, as a kind of coach him up moment, like to kind of gird her for this final fight.
And she's crying in her bed. I mean, she's a wreck.
I know, and it's quite a big card to play. And I think to Daemon's somewhat credit, I do believe he sincerely thinks that Rhaenyra has to do this. That I don't think he. I think he takes that vision quite seriously.
It does seem like we saw a real shift in Daemon in season 2 after seeing that vision, because there was question of like, is he just going to try and take it all for himself?
In his interpretation of it, quite vital that Rhaenyra becomes queen and sits on that throne, that literally the safety and security of the world depends on it. And that, whether he thinks the vision of Daenerys hatching the dragons is Rhaenyra and is symbolism or not, he really believes that she needs to take the throne and needs to do it now. So quite an important speech, I thought.
For sure. So yeah, how would you rank their marriage at this point? How are they doing?
I think they need each other.
Couples goals or?
In a very twisted way, kind of, right?
In a very twisted way, kind of.
In the sense that she needs his strength in this moment. She
clearly needs the pep talk. Yep.
Right? And he needs her legitimacy. And, we talked about this in previous seasons. Deep down, he knows that he's not the guy. He's had ambitions to win the throne, but I think deep down he understands, like, that's not, I wouldn't be good at it. That's not me.
Yeah.
And so he really needs her to hold the realm together, to hold their family together. And I think all of that makes them a pretty dynamic pair that, again, I know that they're related. But quite closely related to each other as
and he's
uncle
a lot
and niece.
Older than she is.
Yeah, but it's in a bizarre Targaryen sense. It is couples goals, Targaryen version.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, he's the guy you need to help cut down the enemy on your way to the throne, right?
It literally cut down 20 guys on the way in.
Yeah.
And then Rhaenyra and her team of dragons head to King's Landing to take the capital. Unfortunately, we have director and executive producer Clare Kilner and co-head writer and executive producer Sara Hess to talk about all of that with us. Let's go to that conversation. Sara and Clare, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to talk about Rhaenyra's triumphant return to King's Landing.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. I was going to say, triumphant is a strong word. Yeah. So we have interviewed both of you separately before, but never together. You have shared writing and directing credits a number of times at this point. What would you say your collaboration is like? Clare, do you want to start?
Yes. I mean, it's a wonderful, I love directing Sara's episodes because she just writes to the character, to the heart, what's going on internally with the characters. I love trying to sort of how to tease that out visually and in behavior as well. So, yeah. Sara knows I'm a big fan of her writing.
Aww. Thanks, Clare. I'm such a huge fan of yours. And I think we've developed such a good collaborative relationship. Like, to me, that's the fun part is, we're on set and, and Claire's, behind, looking at her monitors. And the fun part is running in and going, oh, what if we did this? And, we're not quite getting this, but what if we, and we, and sometimes we're, quietly screaming at each other in a corner. Like, but I thought, but I think that's the fun is sort of everyone's ideas and getting it out there. And sometimes there's something we didn't understand about what the other was trying to do. And I don't know, to me, that's the, bringing our viewpoints together and coming out with, the thing that is on the screen is exhilarating and fun in a way that for me as a writer, alone in my house typing, it's not as,
And we have a lot of trust, because on set, there's so many ideas, and the actors bring so much on the day that either that we didn't even expect. We've got to really think on our feet and react to what's happening in front of us, whether we're going to embrace it, whether it will work for the season as a whole or the episode as a whole. And there's a lot of trust because I think, I just I sort of like to hide away when I'm directing and sort of create a big sort of lot of little black box for myself. But when Sara comes, I always feel this incredible wave of support, and she never sort of pushes an idea for the sake of an idea. So it just feels, like you say, Sara, a lot of fun.
I think too, yeah, you're right that we have a level of trust with each other where there's times when we disagree. I'll come in and say, what about this? And Claire goes, I was really thinking this. And like, I mean, I have many times said to you, it's like, okay, if you're seeing it, then I'm happy. Like
You really do, yeah.
I'm giving my opinion to you, but if you think it's a different thing, then like I will trust you on that. And like we've had many collaborations with that. And equally, right? Sometimes I come to you and you're like, God damn it. Like, cause you don't like it, but you've thought about it and you're like, oh, we probably should. Like, so we both have moments of, where we trust the other one to like, come up with things.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a great team. And I really look forward to the days when we're on set together.
Did that trust take a while to, like, is it because
Claire?
you have done so many episodes together that now you are sort of like, oh yeah, I can't picture it, but that's okay because Claire can and I know it.
Yeah, well, listen, I think like in Hollywood, generally, there can be this sense of writers and directors being on different teams. Like the writer, and I mean, the old adage is like TV is the writer's domain, right? So it's like the writer is the showrunner, the creator or whatever, and they're ultimately in charge. And historically, this is a little bit less now, but historically, a lot of directors were jobbing directors who came in, did one episode and left. So the writer's like, oh, that's not what we do here, right? Or is in charge of that. And I think the really good part is getting into it together and coming up with something together and seeing each other as allies rather than like someone you have to get past to get what you want.
Exactly.
Which I think, as you know, Claire, right? It's like it happens all the time. So
totally. Yeah. And this show is different in, because it is so cinematic and it feels like each episode feels like a feature film. I mean, last season I shot for 115 days and, that's many days. I think that's more than Christopher Nolan did on The Odyssey, maybe. I don't know. But not that I'm comparing myself to him, but
you are
it's
fine. Let's go.
Okay. It's
let's do this.
We're ready.
You want when you're shooting, I just like want to invest myself personally and feel the weight of the words and the story. And so, it's just, it would be such a shame not to have this, work out this sort of shared point of view and use each other. Like we use each other's ideas and lived experiences like we use the actors' lived experiences. When I first started directing, when I was younger, I felt like it was my job to have like a strong vision and not deviate from it. But now I've got so much more experience. I really do understand that some actors, you could do a rehearsal like 4 weeks before, and then the actors can have an experience like on the day coming in, on the bus or on the train or in their car or whatever, that shifts their point of view of that scene. So if it really is speaking to them, we will also just, drop our ideas and listen to them as long as it feeds into the story.
Well, before we talk about Rhaenyra returning to King's Landing, we have to talk about the return of Jace's body to Dragonstone. It's such a harrowing scene to watch. I can't imagine what it was like on the day to create that. Tell us about that.
I mean, I think we have to, completely give that to Emma and Bethany as well, because, what they brought was something like deep from the pit of their gut that, you can't direct that, I mean, it did say in the script, though, I think she was like keening, over Jace's body. So I think, you encouraged that because there was like some strong words there, which some actors could have shied away from because you have to be so vulnerable.
As a writer, and like Ryan laughs at me for this, there are not that many actors that I would write that scene for because it is. And so like I'm very partial to like you walk in, there's gonna be bad news, you cut, you come back later. Like you don't need to see the moment of like and like falling to the floor. Why God, why? It's like it can often you're sort of walking that line of like, is it going to be too much? Is it going to, whatever. And like, at the end of season 1 too, she finds out Luke is dead. We didn't show her, we sort of showed the aftermath that you don't do this. But I will say, I mean, just to Emma's credit, like I remember writing going, this is one of the times that I'm just going to let it go. Like we're going to see the whole thing. We're going to see it. And I know I know that Emma's going to carry it off, and it's going to be riveting and amazing, and so it's like, you don't write that for everyone.
It was an actually incredibly, I think everybody came out that day feeling just so exhausted. Because, it was just exhausting to have all that emotion in the room, and also the spectacle of everyone watching Rhaenyra fall apart, and this sort of sense. I think what was really interesting was this sense, Miss Saria turns up, everyone's watching her. Everyone can feel the deep pain and that she could just explode. And it's that fear of not knowing how to go to someone, how to comfort someone when they're in this deep other world of pain that you actually can't really connect to. And, so it was interesting to see it from the outside looking in, and then also from Rhaenyra's perspective. I don't even know if you see all those people watching you when you're in that sort of blind grief. But I think you just have moments. Everyone just felt it in the room.
I think there's something especially about Rhaenyra talking to Jace initially.
Yeah.
Where that is just like seeing that in particular, I thought was just so striking. Did you always know you were going to write it that way?
Yes. That scene, I think, it wasn't easy, but I did have a very clear vision of what it was going to be. And actually, we couldn't actually do part of it, Claire, right? Because in the script, she actually starts hitting him. Like, she's so furious that he went off and got killed that she starts shaking him and is like angrily, she's almost like attacking his body, and we actually couldn't do that because it's actually Harry. we couldn't like get as physical. It was either going to be like a dummy or it's Harry, and like and so it's like
we wanted Harry.
We couldn't get as physical as like I actually wanted it to be, where she's just like literally physically attacking him and has to be pulled off. But all good. Like what we have is incredible.
I think you still pick up on all of like just all those layers of emotions.
Like her first, I think
through.
she walks in and her first initial reaction is just fury. Like how could you do this to me? As opposed to like she hasn't even taken in the grief, I think, at the beginning. It's just like, what have you done?
I would love to talk about Alicent and how you envisioned her role in this scheme. She's in King's Landing. She's trying to make it happen. How did that writing go?
She's just such a brilliant actor, and she just has, you feel like she's got so many secrets, and I think in this episode she felt so courageous. She was like, she was like, risking everything to ready the Red Keep for Rhaenyra's arrival, and what she was doing was absolutely huge. It's almost like, so you just felt the weight of that, and how difficult it was to keep all the balls up in the air and get the timing right and talk to the correct people and keep everyone on side who needs to be on side, and also just not knowing if she had done it by the time they arrived.
She did see a lot of naked dudes, though.
She did see a lot of that.
She did.
I love the contrast between Alicent and Rhaenyra's storylines in this episode, because for Rhaenyra, this is the beginning of something, her reign in her mind, and it's begun in a way that she could never have expected. And with Alicent, you can sense her excitement because she's going to be done.
This is very hopeful.
We're going to cast off all of the baggage, and this is it. I'm out.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that contrast and creating that, because it's a wonderful tension between the two.
I think it's, Rhaenyra's obviously born to it in a way that Alicent wasn't, to rule. But I do think we very much thought about it as Rhaenyra sort of rising as Alicent is. At least power-wise, receding. And, through season 2, it's the story of her. She thought they've both been raised in this patriarchal world, and Rhaenyra's attitude towards it is, well, I'm going to basically not become a man, but I'm going to do what men do, and I'm going to, as far as I can, try to become one of them. Whereas Alicent, having tried to be a woman and influence men, just eventually realizes like, oh, this isn't, it's the whole system is stacked and I don't even know what I'm doing here and I'm just going to get out of it. And so like, we definitely looked at it that Rhaenyra slowly cementing like, this is how I have to do it. And Alicent sort of trying to opt out of it and not being able to. we definitely wanted that contrast, and we definitely always look at it as an X, like that and then they pass each other at some point in the middle, which is where they make their bargains with each other. But that Alicent's response to, once she's grasped the extent of it, her response to the patriarchy is to nope out.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra's is to like try to take it, and make it the thing that she wants it to be. And, time will tell if either of those things comes to. Anyways,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's so interesting, too, because Alicent at this point, I mean, she's already so disenfranchised that for me, a huge question with these early episodes is like, how much can she actually, how much that she has promised Rhaenyra can she actually make happen?
She finds out she can't because she gets back home and is like,
exactly.
Aemon's left. Or Aemon's still there and Aegon left.
Aegon's
so
out.
And is trying to, but I think, she has diminishing ability. She's determined to use what influence she still has. But I think, she feels, she's looking at Aegon, she's looking at Aemon, she's going, oh, like, I really messed this up. Like, these guys are not,
this is not
they're not what
well.
I wish. But, and I hate this whole, but she's also going, this system has fucked them.
Of
like
course.
they've been raised, in this manner where they want things and they, they're led to believe that they need to, achieve certain things. And it's kind of ruined them. And her singular goal at this point is, I'm going to get my daughter out of here. Right. Where it's like, she doesn't deserve this. She, and Helena to great extent is like maybe the only innocent person in this entire
there is
show.
A purity to her,
right? Where she's pure and she is the one who's standing outside going, why are we doing this? And everyone's like, oh, I don't know. But I think her world does dwindle to, I will do whatever I need to do to get Helena out of here and give her a normal life. And that's it. That's all I care about right now and that's it is somewhat selfish and like, I feel that by doing that, I will redeem myself, and it's what I want, but also, but also for her.
And she has to mask so much. She has to like hide herself and her huge emotions. And, she has to just keep it all hidden. Whereas Rhaenyra is like starting to reveal a lot more about herself and the different sides of her character that even she actually didn't fully recognize.
The moment when she and Alicent and Elena walk into the throne room and there is Otto's head is incredible because Alicent must be thinking, well, I've done it. There were some, obstacles in my way. The plan kind of shifted, but I got the gates open. Rhaenyra is here. The city is not on fire. And then to walk in and see that, take us through.
A prisoner. It's
and she's a prisoner. Take us through shooting that and what is going through.
Well, that was, how long was that, Claire? 3 days?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just really discussing the scene with each character individually and then bringing it all together. I mean, Alicent is, I really wanted to sort of feel her being brought into this room and not understanding or realizing what was happening until the crowd separated. And, and then she saw Otto's head and that huge, absolutely huge betrayal, of Rhaenyra.
We talked in the writer's room about, should Alicent be brought in sooner and be present for the, the actual beheading itself. But I ended up delaying it because I felt like that moment I just wanted to be I felt like I wanted to be on Rhaenyra because what is the weight of this? Like, I'm going to kill a man.
Yeah.
Which she's never done before and is just like, it's so gruesome. And it's, even if she doesn't like the guy, he's a guy she knows and, and was her father's friend for her entire life. And so I think we just really wanted to weight that and give her that moment of, I think in the script it says something like she does it, and then when she stands up, she's a different person. Than she's scared of what it's going to make her into, and so she does it. And I felt like then having to also be clocking Alicent's reaction to this happening was going to actually take us out of that moment for Rhaenyra, and I wanted to sit in there with all the fullness of that because it's just so intense, and then have Alicent come in and have her own moment at the end. I think. So we get the dun 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 dun, and different things. So we broke it up.
Just working out how to block that moment when Rhaenyra beheads Otto. We rehearsed it many times. Actually,
there's a stunt component. There's
there's stunt. The prosthetics, the heads. That were built. The the VFX, all of it. It took a lot, the blood, and then, you know, creating the footsteps in the blood and the reflection as she ascends to the throne in the reflection. We really, everyone worked incredibly hard to bring all that together. And then I really sort of liked the idea of, you know, when I saw, you know, Otto leaning over, and I think when you're looking at a neck, like how do you know, just thinking about it, you know, it's not just a beheading. It's like, where do you cut? Is it, you know, should it be like, you know, she's never done it before. She doesn't know the angle. Is she going to do a bad job of it?
Well, and we did this on purpose. It's like, you know, usually on TV it's like, and it's gone, but it's like, what if it doesn't work and you have to do it again? It's like, which is so much worse. So it's like, we definitely wanted her to not be good at it, you know?
Yeah, and I love the moment where, you know, Rhaenyra walks around and just surveying his neck, and then something that Emma was just like, you know, he keeps talking. I just want him to shut up.
Yeah.
So that was her motive, just to like go for it.
That moment feels like it takes on its own momentum in the story, because Daemon says, you must do this. It's, you know, from the outside looking in, I'm like, do you have to? It seems like you wanted to do Aegon, he's not here. But then the way, and I found this darkly comic, I'd love to get your opinions on, must she kill him now? It seems she's been through so much in the last 3 hours that it's just
TV Jason, she has to kill him.
But, you know, like, does she have to? Like,
well, look, I will
Daemon
say,
right?
and this is a theme for Rhaenyra throughout this season. Rhaenyra is incredibly concerned about legitimacy.
Right. She's got to look strong.
She has to look strong. And again, as we were saying earlier, it's like she feels in herself that she has to do the things that a man does. And in one, you know, she rips up her gowns and it's like, I'm not going to do this anymore because it's a sign of weakness. And it's a sign of like, oh, I need to be protected. I need to be shielded from things. You know, my son locked me in my room and went off to fight. And so like, I'm not doing that anymore. So I think it is legitimately, it's not like she's from now on, she's going to be doing all the, you know, beheadings in the kingdom or anything. But at that moment, everyone's watching. She's taking the throne. You know, Aegon's not there. This is the hand of the, you know, this is the hand. And so it's like the best thing that she's got at that moment. And I think specifically that the relationship between Rhaenyra and Daemon too is very complicated in that she needs him. Like she understands that as a woman, you know, just like the optics, she needs the strong man by her side because some people are going to want to see that in order to make them feel good. But at the same time, she doesn't want she doesn't want it to be him, the one that they all respect and fear. And she's like the figurehead. So it's like, you know, she's kind of struggling with that relationship. Yeah. And that is also a theme that will go on, you know, throughout the rest of the show. But I think it's like, it is like, yeah, you got to, like, you have to show them that you are willing to do what it takes to be the king, like the queen, and to take the throne and to be the leader. And so I think, you know, does she have to? Probably not.
Certainly when Otto says, make Daemon do it. At that point, you're just like,
yeah. Well, I think also the point where Daemon's like, he's in front of a bunch of people telling her she's got to do it. She can't say no to that.
Yeah. It's like, does she absolutely have to? Probably not. But does she probably feel that she needs to in that moment? Yes. For sure.
You know?
Yes. So,
and I think, you know, all that time before she does it, she's questioning, can she do it? Can she do it? And also I feel like Daemon is just, you know, that's the darkness, sort of mean-spirited, fun part of Daemon, that he will like put her in that position in front, you know, make it a piece of theater in front of everybody.
But also you're right. Once Otto says, let Daemon do it, Daemon's like,
yeah.
It's like, then he's absolutely not going to do it. So, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that also gets at something that's so striking about this whole sequence, which is you can tell, I mean, there's such a tangible quality to Rhaenyra's hesitation. And I feel like I can see
that's Emma
her,
Darcy, man. Like,
it's amazing. Like you can tell she knows she's supposed to be there, but also she's like, wait, what the, you know? And like, you can also get that with the number of times Daemon has to encourage her to keep going. You know, there's so many moments, even before they leave Dragonstone, where he's got to be like, no, we got to go, we got to go, we got to do it.
And that's partially in the writing and partially in the directing, but I think a lot of it too is like just something that Emma brought to it too. But it was just like, how do we deal with the immensity of the grief that this character is feeling over Jace? And I think this was like you and Emma together, but that scene was not written when he comes in is like, you have to get up and go. That was not written as she's in bed.
Oh, interesting.
But I think it was, I don't know if it was you or it was Emma. It was them.
Yeah,
So,
it was Emma, and I thought that was such a intelligent choice because it just felt like almost sort of, for me, it was like a real sort of fantasy piece of sort of Sleeping Beauty, you know, or just that feeling when you're in this deep grief and all you want to do is sleep and you're in this deep depression and you don't want to wake up.
Right.
And then Damon comes in and sort of whispers these words to her that, you know, wakes her up. But also, I feel like part of her isn't really there.
I think that's what Emma was saying. That's like the grief is there and it's like you don't even really care anymore for yourself. But what he's saying is like, there's this prophecy, there's this thing your father wanted. Are you going to do it or not? And so I think Emma's take on that was that, you know, Rhaenyra is sort of like an automaton walking, where it's like the intellect is going, I know this is what I need to do and what my, you know, my duty
and I wanted this
is, and I wanted it, so I'm going to do it. But like emotionally, there's nothing there. Like it's just kind of like she is as a character going through those motions of like, okay, I'm going to get off this bed. I'm going to get on my dragon. I'm going to fly to King's Landing. That's what I have to do today. You're in that state of shock where nothing is even, you know, it's just you can't absorb anything and nothing is almost real until like maybe that last moment when it's like, oh shit, this is real. And you know.
Okay, let's do final question. Rhaenyra's on the throne. Everything's great now, right? We did it. We're done. We're good. We can call it a win.
Yeah, the next episodes are just she's, you know, picking her drapes. It's like, it's great. Yeah.
Well, Claire and Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. See you later. Well, we can't wait to have both of you back next episode to talk about the drapes and how everything is going great in King's Landing.
Oh, it's going to be so fun. Yeah.
Can't wait.
It was so great to talk to Sara and Claire. Now let's go to our interview with Bethany Antonia, who plays Baela, and Abubakar Salim, who plays Alyn of Hull. Bethany and Abubakar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So in this episode, both of your characters are really grappling with the aftermath of the Battle of the Gullet. It's ostensibly a victory, but the cost is high. I think, Bethany, your character even says, like, it was won, but at what cost? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that at this stage of the story.
Yeah, she says it is won, and I think it's the only thing that she can bring herself to say in the face of this, you know, all these people that are waiting for her to return with good news. And I think she feels so guilty because she was the one that told them this was happening in the first place. And, you know, now she's watched this person that she loves so much fall to his death because they chose to go and be a part of this battle. But I think she knows at her core that he wanted to do this more than anything. And so he's died, but it is, you know, it has won the thing that he wanted to do for his mum. And it's really sad. That scene was so hard to film, the coming home scene with him still on the dragon. It's just so beautiful.
Abu, who do you think won?
I don't think anyone won. It was like, I don't think anyone won. I think, again, it's that, and I think that's the beauty of the show is that it really doesn't put war as this beauty on a pedestal. It shows how grim and ugly it is. It shows how grim and ugly family feuds can get. And I think like that's why I love it, because it's so real. And even though we're dealing with dragons and ships and everything, it still deals with the reality of what the cost of war. And I think, in that scenario, no one has won. Okay, you get to live and breathe another day, but you then have to live with all of the heartache and pain that you've caused. I think like that's what's really well depicted, I feel, especially after the Gullet. It was such an intense experience and chaos and madness and I remember thinking as well, like, as kids, you always have these fantasies of like wanting to fight in wars and be, fight pirates and all sorts of stuff. But then when in the reality of it, it's like, actually, it's pretty gruesome. It's pretty harsh. So yeah, I don't think anyone won that. No one won, really.
So yeah, Abu, what was it like to film that? I mean, you're at the center of a huge naval battle.
Oh yeah, I mean it was weird, but it was great. I mean, like, because I think the thing is, it was okay. What was it like to film? To film was amazing. It was incredible. There was this beautiful, like, structured chaos. I remember the stuff at the dry tank was all very, very regimented, really cool. Almost felt like Roman in a weird way. And then suddenly, when the clash happened and the fight kind of erupted, then it just started going mad. People were swinging, people were screaming, but it felt like there was order there. And there's also then the wave machines, and then there's like sticky blood and wasps. And so you're dealing with all these other elements. So it feels like a theme park ride, but you're in the theme park. You are part of the theme park.
You're working the park.
You're working the park.
How many days did you rehearse for that first sequence?
Okay, we rehearsed for a very long time. Whether that helped the madness.
Because I feel like every time I saw you, I was like, what are you doing here? You were like, rehearsing.
I'm rehearsing, yeah. I'm rehearsing. And it's so funny because, again, like, when we were rehearsing inside a studio space or like a warehouse space where you had endless space. You had, mats, you were dressed in like, a vest and like, shorts. And then when you're on the day, you're there and you've got like these really big boots, heavy armor, and the space is tiny and you're slipping and sliding everywhere. There's wasps as well. It was just like...
You have mentioned the wasps.
It was, because the wasps were a real presence. Like, they were in the fight. They were the third faction. They're the ones who won the fight. I'm going to make that really clear. The wasps won.
It is won.
It was won by the wasps.
It is won.
Yeah, that was the most gruesome part of it all. Wow. But yeah, it was incredible though. It was amazing. But again, I can so distinctly remember the feeling of like the first time Lonnie shouted action, and you see all the stunties just like clash one another, and you're just caught in the mix of it all, and everything that you've rehearsed just goes out of your head because it's just insane. Like being in the middle of this brawl, this like mosh pit. It was wild. Yeah.
And Bethany, what was it like for you? Obviously, Baela is viewing the battle from a much different perspective. What is it like to be on Dragonback for something like this?
It was unbelievable. I keep saying this, but I don't think I'm ever going to have an experience quite like what we did to shoot this again in my life, because we got to watch the whole thing first. So we got to see what it was going to look like in theory with the like animated versions of us. And then we got to do it. And because we were shooting it, and when you're shooting on the book, you can only shoot one at a time. So I wasn't with Harry. So they were constantly running in and showing me like what my POV was, what Harry's POV was, and then what both of our POVs were, what we could see down below. But you still couldn't quite get your head into the feeling of how fast you were going to be going or what the pacing was going to be like. But again, that first time that Lonnie called action, and I suddenly understood then what we were doing, because it was so different to all the book stuff we'd done before. It was just unbelievable. It was so brilliant. And he went above and beyond to make it feel like everybody else was in the room with me, even though they weren't. He's so brilliant. I can't think of anyone who was better suited to directing this episode. Good. He was just unbelievable.
He was amazing. He would rock up on set with like sailor tattoos on his
He was so in.
He was so in it. Like there was a time he was blasting Metallica like, before. Like it was a real. It was mad.
He said immersive.
He's so immersive.
Yeah.
He was like, he was in it.
Yeah, at one point he was the dragon.
Oh my God.
Like, he went through such a lot.
He really did. Yeah.
Obviously, Corliss plays such a central and important role in both of your characters' lives. And you can really feel them grapple with the possibility that he might be gone from their lives. How did they help each other in that moment? You think your characters help each other kind of understand what that might be like and process what it might be like if they don't find Corlys or if they found him dead? Bethany?
I think it's every time for Baela, every time she's on the verge of feeling alone, she has to sort of reroute and like re-find who she can be with and look after. It's just been consistently losing people year after year, you know. And I think when we lose Rhaenys, she realizes that she doesn't have the relationship with her granddad that she could have had and that she wishes she had. And so now suddenly she's realized that, and she's sort of made it her mission to build this relationship. And just as that starts to happen, he is taken away too, or so she thinks. And so I think with the boys, I think she sees the chance of family again, of connection, and a side of her family that she was totally ostracized from. And she meets both of them and is sort of blown away by their connection that they form immediately. And the scene of them all sort of coming together to look for Corlys was so beautiful. It was the first time we'd all shot together.
Yeah.
Since we all started. And it just really did feel like that, didn't it, on the day?
Yeah.
It was like, this is a new family here.
Yeah.
People that are going to have each other's back.
Yeah, and that was something that really stuck out for me as well. It was almost like, I think especially for Alyn, being used to being so alone or having to always have the answers, to then meet someone who there's almost like like such a deep understanding already. There's so much context there, and also the weird excitement of wanting to know more about the origin of where, you know, his family. I think that's also what really kind of kicked in as well. And it's, having been so used to, I guess, being alone and always trying to just figure out the issues of the now, never really thinking about the future, to then see the possibility of that kind of flourish in that moment. Like that whole day, that whole scene, and, you know, with you, and then, you know, seeing Corlys and the team, like it was such a wonderful, it felt really hopeful.
Yeah.
Which is so rare in a show like this, to feel hopeful.
The only episode, guys.
You know what I mean? The only episode.
Ain't no more hope coming for you.
Hold on to those moments. Let me tell you, we need them.
Yeah, so it was really wonderful.
Yeah.
Huge theme of this season is the cost. And Baela has this devastating line where she says of the battle that, she's just tired of losing people. Talk to us about that feeling for her. She's such a young person, and to express that is just heartbreaking.
She's had to grow up so fast. I was looking back at some of our old like BTS pictures and seeing how young we looked in season 1. And I know to us when we're shooting it, it feels like so much time is passing because there's so much space in between seasons. But I never quite saw that until I looked at these pictures. And they've had to grow up so quickly, which has actually been made really nice by us having the time to play them over a number of years, if that makes sense. Because I think she's changed so much this season. She's almost at a point where she's questioning why they're doing this and what it's for and who it's for and who her loyalty lies with, because every time she makes a pledge to somebody, it seems to not work out. And I think Jace was the only person that she trusted fully. Now Rhaenys is gone, and she went with him because she wanted to protect him, and she secretly thought that she could do that, and that if he got into any sort of danger, as long as the two of them were together, then she would be there to fix it. And I think when that doesn't happen, the idea of going back home to a home that she now knows is sort of a place she's not going to be welcomed into. It just unearths so much about the relationship with Daemon and why there's this rift between them all and why she doesn't feel like Rhaenyra is home, because it should be. It should be for her. You know, they've been united as a family for so long. But I think all of these thoughts and feelings about like, where is home and who is home and which side of me do I choose to align myself with? And then like, is Corlys, are we allowed to do this or are we not? And you see that she changes the colours again that she starts wearing, which I think is a really beautiful shift in the story, because she realises who she needs to align herself with. And yeah, it's just a really sad thing to watch to someone who is so young. They're all so young. I think we forget. They're all so young and they're going through this together. And it was really interesting to think about what it meant when she meets Alyn properly and why it is so suddenly that she can, you know, like open herself up to him and still find a bit of room for kindness. And I think it goes back to what I said before. She just is desperate to have connection and community and people that feel like hers that can't be taken away.
Well, Abu, Bethany, thank you very much for talking with us about this episode.
Thank you.
Those were awesome conversations. Now, before we go, let's give some parting words of the episode. And of course, the idea is that each week we will share some parting words to a different character who we think might need some sort of pep talk of their own.
Yes, this time around, we are talking to Alicent. I think mine are like, Alicent, get out of there, girl. I don't know. I mean, partly I'm excited to see her talking with Rhaenyra more.
Okay.
What do you think?
My words for Alicent?
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah? You think it was worth it?
Forget worth it. Obviously, the Otto thing, big surprise.
Yeah, not great.
It's not great, okay? But never let anybody tell you that you didn't do your part.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay?
I like that.
The Rhaenyra stuff, that's a mess. She's going to have to
That's on her.
get all of that in order.
Boundaries.
You did exactly what you said you would do. Period. It's done. Aemon went to Harrenhal. The dragon is gone. The gates were thrown open. Rhaenyra's sitting on the chair. You did it. You're done. Good job.
But she didn't give Rhaenyra Aegon's head. I think she did not totally. We can call it like 95% or whatever, but like that is a significant.
Not her problem, not under her control.
I mean, I get
she
that.
could not have controlled that.
Yeah.
Listen, what are we talking about? You want to return it? You want to
Yeah, I got a receipt.
you got your receipt? You want to leave? We'll close the gates back up, fly the dragon back?
Yeah.
Good job, Alicent. You did it.
One thing that I think is really interesting about Alicent in this episode especially is that it is very clear to me that at this point, Alicent is no longer Team Green.
She's team
She's
more
like
war.
Team Realm.
Yeah, she's team Realm.
Peace. And I think it's going to be interesting. Like, I have a feeling throughout this season, as war continues, as we continue to see the cost of war, that binary isn't going to exist anymore.
I agree. Okay, that's it for this episode. Don't forget to join us next Sunday night, right after episode 3 airs on HBO and HBO Max. We'll be joined by even more special guests. Also, if you're looking to dive even deeper into the world of House of the Dragon, well, you're in luck. There's a brand new mobile game called Game of Thrones. Dragonfire! If you've always wanted to raise a dragon of your very own, this is the game for you. Players can hatch dragon eggs, raise them by feeding them meat. Shouts to Rhaena. The dragon can blow fire on the meat to cook it, and then you'll be able to fly your dragons into battle. Plus, the game will feature in-game events that directly tie to House of the Dragon Season 3. Raise dragons, rule Westeros. Download Game of Thrones Dragonfire today in the Apple or Google App Store, and HBO Max subscribers get special rewards. Go to gotdragonfire.com. That's gotdragonfire.com for more info.
If you like what you are hearing and watching, don't forget to leave us a rating and review on your podcast player of choice. You can find us on the Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon social media handles. You can also watch us on Spotify, YouTube, and HBO Max.
The official Game of Thrones podcast, House of the Dragon, is produced by HBO in collaboration with Same Boat Studios. This podcast is hosted by Greta Johnsen
and Jason Concepcion, who also produces the show. Our executive producers for Same Boat Studios are Gabrielle Lewis and Barry Finkel. Our senior producer is Ben Goldberg. The show is mixed by Hannes Brown, and our video editor is Stefano Sanchez. Our digital content producer is In-Sung Huang, and our audio engineer is Javi Cruces.
Special thanks to Michael Gluckstadt, Allison Cohen-Sorokach, and Kenya Reyes from the HBO Max podcast team.
Thank you for listening. We will see you next week when Queen Rhaenyra has taken the throne.